Good morning and happy Women's History Month. I'm so excited. I'm sure you already know and can already tell. Well, welcome to the Shiro Coffee Chat where coffee meets conversation. I am your host, retired Army veteran and founder of the Shiro Coffee Club, Melissa Farmer Hill. This is a place for veterans, coffee chat, commentary, information, and everything in between. I want to thank you for joining me, and we are going to brew it up right after this. Now, first things first, well, we are all out here doing our best at this thing called life, and it's not always easy. So, we have to keep our heads on a swivel when it comes to veteran information or information about veterans and their family members, right? There are over 16 million and growing. That number could have changed by now. There are over 16 million veterans out there, and the truth is that not one of us, not none of us know everything there is to know about the benefits and the programs that we have and that are happening all over the veteran community. So that's why I like to go to the Shiro resource table. It's just the same thing as if you're going to a stand down and you're picking up information about veterans. And so today, we're not just going to grab a pamphlet off the resource table. Nope, because we have a special guest in today to talk about the National Headache Foundation. Diego Colon is the Associate Director of Military Partnership. He has a background in performing arts and event management. And after winning a Joseph Jefferson Award for original music composition, he became deeply invested in the arts and advocacy. His work with multiple Chicago theater companies and local journalists to improve inclusion efforts eventually led him to serve as a sharp educator. And if you are in the military, you know what, or a veteran, you probably are familiar with sharp. But that led to his as a sharp educator with the U.S. Army Corps. So that was post pandemic. His advocacy took shape at Chicago's largest food pantry, where he helped build the volunteer base and schedule for its largest location. Now, Diego is grateful to be building community with veterans through his work at the National Headache Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Diego Colon.
Yes, incredible intro. So happy to be here. I've got my coffee ready. We're ready to rock.
Awesome. So Diego, what I want to talk about a few things. Your background is so interesting and it's so diverse.
Yeah.
I want to start. I think it was post pandemic where you became the sharp educator. So talk
right
to us.
up until the pandemic.
Okay, right up until the pandemic. All right. So if I read it wrong, charge it to my head, not to my heart.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about that.
That came from being a performer. I just was a performer in Chicago for many, many years, and I ended up working with this a friend of mine who was the manager at this company called Catharsis. They hired by the DoD to go into the Great Lakes bases and Army training bases around America to teach sharp classes in a way that is of course, acknowledging the very serious nature of the material, but also sort of like poking fun at what it's like to date and what it's like to meet people in our culture. And it was like a good mix of like uh, a little bit of fun, a little bit of humor at dating and meeting people, but also getting real when we need to talk about sort of like the seriousness that comes with sharp education.
Wow. Now, did that lead to the National Headache Foundation?
It certainly helped. I had a role in the middle that was a little bit more community engagement, where I helped build out sort of like the volunteer base at one of the largest food pantries. But then afterwards, I started looking for more advocacy roles. And when the job at National Headache Foundation came up, my experience working with active military and my opportunity to work with veterans, which, as we both know, is an underserved population, got me excited. I personally am not a veteran, but my dad is a veteran. All of my uncles are veterans. I got friends who are veterans. The culture is in my sphere.
And I think it's extra special when, although you didn't serve, you have the heart to support and serve. So first of all, I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for just being a part of the veteran community and the military community. I want to thank your family for their service as well. Now let's talk about this upcoming webinar series. I'm gonna let so I am so excited. I am so excited about it. One of the things I just want to add in, the reason why I love taking Shiro Coffee Chat in spaces that are unique. Like what I found out about coffee is that it helps headaches. It kind of reduces the inflammation, and they use caffeine and pain medication. And sometimes, of course, you'd have to consult with your doctor. But if you have a headache, you'll drink coffee, and it does help kind of restrict the increased blood flow. And I just think that is just so fabulous. And me having gone through a certain amount of headache. I had my own headache and migraine journey myself. I was so delighted to meet you and Katie at that event at the Malcolm X College in
Yes.
Chicago. And I'm just so blessed right now to be able to partner with you guys to bring this series to our veteran women community. I've been advertising it and promoting it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
We are so excited, and like you said, we are happy to be out here, happy to be helping the community. Something that I've been really invested in my time here working at the National Headache Foundation is recognizing, like, yo, we have all these incredible resources, we have all these brilliant minds, and there's all these people that need this resource, this education, and my job is to kind of make that connection. And I've been trying to do that through Operation Brainstorm, not to drop the swag but I wore it for a reason. I wore it for a reason. Yeah, we developed Operation Brainstorm to sort of help be a nexus point for veterans looking for headache migraine care, because it's a website that has all of the VA care information as well as all the information we have as a 55-year institution and headache specialty. And we made that website, and I think that's really, really great. I love having that, but I want to bring the education directly to the people. As a community builder, that's always been kind of my big thing, is sort of like building communities by connecting people. And so getting to meet you was an absolute dream. Getting to talk about your organization and what you're doing in the community, including this wonderful show, constantly keeping people in conversation, constantly letting veterans know here's what's out there, here's what's happening. So we're happy to partner with you to bring taking charge of headache. Why do I get headaches? Episode 1. Why do I get headaches? So this is going to be an hour lunch and learn. That's this Friday. So post up with your brown bags, post up with the DoorDash that came to your office, and watch this webinar. If you are a veteran, if you are somebody that gets headache migraines, if you are living or in love with a veteran who gets headache migraines, or even just headache migraine haver, please come to this webinar. It is free. It is free 99. We have a not only are me and Melissa going to be there, which that should be enough. We will have conversation with veteran Cheryl McJoy, who is a migrainer, a migraine haver, and will tell us in brevity about her experience, her journey getting the migraine in her service, and also sort of living through treatment and what that journey was like advocating for herself as a Black female veteran in the space. We are very excited about that. And then following Cheryl is Dr. Karen Williams, an incredible nurse that's been working with veterans for years, decades, is going to come and give us a breakdown of sort of like, how do I recognize that I have headache migraine? How do I track it? Who do I talk to? Who can I reach out to, and where can I go for information on how to help my headache? Because as you mentioned, sometimes coffee helps headaches, but sometimes doesn't. I think the thing that I've learned the most about headache migraine in this role is that it's truly different strokes for different folks. Every headache is different and unique, and every treatment care has to be tailor made to that care. And I think that is my role in this, is to tell veterans, hey, you gotta tailor make your own care, and here's how you do it.
That is wonderful. I know, like, my experience had been I was suffering alone because I really didn't know. I thought it was just a regular headache and things like that. And that's why, like you said, you have to custom tailor your own care. That's very important because everyone is different. Coffee helps me. Coffee might not help someone else.
Right.
And so I think this webinar series, you guys, it's going to help you navigate through your journey, and you don't have to be alone. You don't have to suffer alone. You don't think that just having a headache, on a regular and ongoing basis is normal, because it's not. So that's why, like Diego said, if you know someone, if you know a veteran, if you know a woman veteran, join us in this webinar series to just connect with other women veterans. Not only that, connect with other women veterans, find out about someone else's journey, about how they had to advocate for themselves. And we have a doctor on call to answer maybe some of the questions that you have. So you don't want to miss this, guys. You don't want to miss this. Diego, this has been such a pleasure. We'll leave all of the information in the link so they can connect, but you have to register, and it's
Yes.
free 99. Diego, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you on Friday. You've got
Don't
something else.
forget
Go
that
ahead.
registering gets you a discount code to some great Shiro
That's
coffee.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, that registration code does get you a discount to some great Shiro coffee. So thank you, Diego. Glad to have you on. Can't wait until Friday.
I'll see you Friday.
All
TGIF,
right.
let's do it.
All right. See you. Thank you.
See ya.
And I just want to share a little bit about my experience with Diego, working with Diego and Katie. It has been such a blast because we know that we're helping veterans out there. We know we're helping women out there who are suffering and possibly suffering alone with headaches. So, again, you guys, we will leave the link for you to register. Get registered, get your Shiro coffee, use that discount code and get your Shiro coffee. And I can't wait to see you guys at the webinar on Friday. Thank you so much. All right, we're gonna. Oh, Andre, he could not. There's another guest here. We are. I'm telling you, Women's History Month. I told you guys I'm excited. I am truly excited about this next guest. Now, she calls herself a volunteer, but I am going to call her a dedicated advocate for veterans, especially when it comes to military benefits. She's a retired Sergeant First Class, where she served in both the Army and the Army Reserves. Following her military career, she continued serving as a nationally accredited county veteran service officer for 11 and a half years. But even in her retirement, and if you meet her, you'll know. And if you see her on LinkedIn, you'll know her passion for serving the veteran community has not waned one bit. She remains a positive force as a volunteer benefits educator for veterans and widowers, ensuring veterans and their families are informed, empowered, and connected to the benefits that they've earned and deserve. Her commitment to those who wore the uniform is really evident, you guys, in everything she does. She continues to make lasting impact across for veterans and their families. She is without a doubt, in my opinion, of veterans. She's someone who, understands and advocates for and uplifts her fellow service members. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Miss Jane Babcock.
Wow. What an introduction.
Jane,
Thank you.
you know what? You deserve it. You definitely deserve it. And it's I have not known you for a long time, but in the spaces where we've been together, in the one-on-one that we had, it was so amazing. And just your passion, your dedication, and your commitment, your depth of knowledge. And I'm not putting it on for you. I'm just telling you what comes from me. Your depth of knowledge when it comes to veterans and widowers is I have it's unmatched. I'll just leave it
Thank
like
you.
that. And of course, there's always more to learn, there's always that. But I just want to give you some flowers right now to let you know that I appreciate what you are doing in the community and the space when it comes to veterans and widowers. And happy Women's History Month.
Absolutely. You know, we women are unicorns. We are unique in so many ways. And the VA finally started recognizing that, a decade or two ago. Women in the VA didn't get benefits. We weren't considered veterans until 1969. So it was just amazing that the VA finally started opening up the doors to us. But it took a while to actually get the things like education benefits and home loan and all the other things. But now in the VA, our women veterans can actually have their babies inside a VA hospital if they live local to the hospital. If they live, say, like myself, an hour and a half away, they're not expecting us to drive while we're in labor. So we go to the local hospital, but the VA will cover the bill.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, they're finally recognizing that just like men, we have unique needs. There are needs that they have that men have that we don't have, so they've finally made those adaptations.
Right. And you know what? Now that you mentioned that, I just remember, having a conversation some time ago. Like you said, women did not have the same benefits as men. And so I just thought about, we were both in the army. Just think about, the changes or the experience it was to become pregnant in the military, and they had to create regulations for that, and the PT test, they had to create regulations for that. We are built differently. we
Yep.
you know we have two different functions, both human, but our functions are of course they can meet up at in some instances, but we serve two different functions. And I am happy that the military is recognizing that. And I wanted to talk to you about some presumptive conditions. Can you tell us first what are presumptive conditions, and then maybe touch on some of the ones that pertain to women?
Okay. Well, presumptive means that the VA doesn't argue. We presume that this illness or condition is because you served in the military. So most of them are chemical um, or environmental exposures. Everybody's heard of Camp Lejeune, the bad water. Well,
Yeah.
if you were stationed in Pearl Harbor area, you also were exposed to bad water. It's just that it hasn't gone through the whole legislative 5 to 10 year process. So, no matter what, I always told my veterans, if you have a serious health condition, such as a cancer or anything else like that, please file that condition. It does two things. It shows the VA that, hey, all of a sudden we've got a higher rate of Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. For every three people that get it, two are usually veterans. We are twice as likely as the civilian population. But they had to see that data first to start the process to make it presumptive. So if you know someone that's a veteran suffering with ALS or has passed away, their spouse, their surviving children, if they're still dependent, have benefits. So presumptive conditions for women, for our Gulf War, Southwest Asia veterans, fibromyalgia is extremely common. MS is a disease that strikes women more than it does men. Well, if you're diagnosed within 7 years of leaving active duty and you get diagnosed with MS, it's such a slow progressive disease. They know you've had it for at least 7 years. So if you got diagnosed at 6 years out of service, you already were starting to develop it in service.
Right. Right.
And there's other things like, well, one of my guys came up HIV positive years after service, but then we were actually able to trace it back to exposure in service. So those are how presumptives work. They may strike you 40 years after service, but because of exposures to different things in service, that's how they connect it to service. And there is literally 7 pages of presumptive illnesses depending on where you were stationed. Or a lot of times it's based on the chemicals you were exposed to in your MOS. These are not considered presumptive, but what you do is one of my guys worked on a carrier catching jets, the cable. Well, he constantly used a solvent called PP680. So we got the chemical breakdown from OSHA and used that to show that he was exposed to high levels of carcinogens, and that's what caused his cancer.
Oh, wow.
So it's out there, but you need to know it. And I'm happy to share that list with anybody on LinkedIn.
Oh, that's wonderful. So I want to go back to something that you said, because lots, and I think it's really key. You said file that condition, because a lot of times people will say, "Well, I'm at 100% or I've got 20%." But in your opinion, do you think that every condition, like you said, should be filed? And again, can
Yes,
you reiterate, like, this is not only helping the I want to say soldier because I'm army, but the military, the service member or the veteran, but it also helps, I guess, the VA at large in identifying conditions. Can you just kind of reiterate that? Let people know.
yes.
Yeah.
Any veteran that suffers any kind of neurological or cancer or anything like that, please file that condition. Know that unless it's on the presumptive list and or you can show the chemicals that you used in service caused it, you are going to get denied. But what that does is it triggers the VA research system. VA is involved in research all over the country in different research, prostate cancer, brain trauma, uh, all sorts of different cancer researches. And you can volunteer to participate in these things. You can volunteer to give the VA your brain after you die for their research. So by showing the VA there's all these numbers, then they get involved in the research with the National Institute of Health, Cancer Society, and all these other people. It also has it in your record that you suffered with this. So if you die from it and it gets put on the presumptive list, even if it's 10 years after you've passed, your widow or dependent children, children under 26 still in school or excuse me, 23 and still in school, or uh, children that were handicapped prior to their 18th birthday, stay on your claim as a dependent their entire life. So you're setting them up to get benefits by having it on the record. If it's not on the record, they have to go through the fight with the VA to get it. Whereas if it's already there, that's a gimme.
And now, so how would you? I want. I'm going to give you two examples. So lots of times people don't know that they could go to different places to file their benefits, because I don't know what the percentages or the number of veterans who qualify for benefits that are not receiving them. I know one is too many. That's a especially
Mhm.
if you know, because these are benefits that you've earned and you deserve, and that could potentially mean you're not getting the care that you need. So, what would you say are the first steps toward applying for benefits?
The first thing you need to do is find your accredited veteran service officer. Like myself, I had to go through training, I had to take a test, I had to get, they checked to make sure I wasn't wanted for bank robbery in California. And then sorry about that. And then every year I had to go to training again. And I had a couple online classes I had to take every year. So I had the latest and greatest knowledge. I also had a network literally of thousands of accredited VSOs all across the country. So when I first started, I could put it out there on the forum. Hey, I've got a Vietnam guy coming in and he's got this cancer or something like that. What's the advice? And I'd get a couple dozen people going, okay, well, get this, get that, ask him that. And then once you get the answers, put it all together in the packet and send it off. Back in the old days, when it was all paper in 2007, I sent it into one of the organizations like BFW, American Legion, DAV, that were at the regional office, the VA regional office. I was accredited with them. They had approved me to do claims in their name. They then looked over the paperwork and make sure I had it squared away. And then they walked it across the hall and made the VA sign for it. So the VA couldn't pull this, oh, we never got that. Oh, yes, you did. You signed for it. So it also means that, like, my office was the first office. I was the first one to win a VA brain cancer for an Agent Orange guy. I filed under the expedite rules, which meant that 2 weeks later the VA denied. I sent it in under an appeal, and 2 weeks later they denied it. Then I handed him off to a really great VA lawyer out in California, and she had a genetic oncologist take my guy's blood and break it down to the genome and show that he had no cancer markers. He should never have developed cancer. Therefore,
Wow.
his brain cancer had to be from an outside influence. What's the greatest outside influencer in his life? His Agent Orange exposure.
Yeah.
So she expedited it at the board. In less than 90 days, she was in front of the Veterans Board of Appeals and argued the case, won the case. So, in a 5 month period, we won brain cancer. And unfortunately, 2 months later, we were doing his widow's benefits.
Yeah.
But it was the first living veteran that I'm aware of, or that any of my CVSO family was aware of. So that was that was definitely a dance on the ceiling kind of day.
Yeah, that is, I mean, that, and it just goes to show you. It's so funny that you should mention that you had to sign for it. I'm from that. That's my age too, where you had to, in the military, you had to sign for stuff and pass it off and things like that. But I mean, that is really a crown jewel that that individual were able to get their benefits. And one of the things I really want to point out is, of course, we know how the Vietnam veterans were treated. Now, the Agent Orange is a presumptive condition. Exposure to Agent Orange is a presumptive condition, and they need to apply for benefits as well. But it sounds pretty easy. I mean, collect the information, and you can submit all of these things online. Correct?
Yes, you could do it all online. But if you leave one piece of evidence out, or you have one piece of evidence that's kind of counterbalancing it,
Yeah.
you
So
need to know how to say what you're saying. Otherwise, the VA is going to go, oh, well, in that case, they're
right.
looking for an excuse to deny. But most of the time, it's just simply based on the evidence submitted.
Right. So
So
talk
that's
to
where
a
VSO comes
VSO.
in.
Yeah, talk to
Yep.
people, talk to people and definitely talk to an accredited VSO. You should not be
Yes.
paying for these services. I
Correct.
really want to point that out. Guess what, Jane?
It's time.
It's time.
Yep.
Thank you so much for talking to us today on the Shiro Coffee Chat. I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing. I know I'm going to see you sometime this year because we move around in some of the same circles. Uh,
Yes.
but thank you. And as always, keep your heart full and your coffee strong. Thanks for joining us.
Take care, everyone.